Good morning, Integrated. I hope you guys had a great weekend. I'm going to do some things differently this week. Instead of taking notes on my iPad, I'm actually going to use my laptop, and I'm going to show you guys how to type in what I would like for you guys to complete this week. So let's get started. We are looking at section 5.1, which is inequalities and their graphs. So we're going to talk about what an inequality is, how to write one, and then lastly, how to graph one. So first off, an inequality is a mathematical sentence that uses an inequality symbol to compare the values of two expressions. If you think back to the beginning of the school year, we actually looked at inequality symbols. We were comparing values of numbers and using inequality symbols to compare them. So let's refresh. So the first symbol here, this is your less than symbol. If you notice, it looks like it kind of forms an L a little bit, very similar to the word less, so you know that one's less than. Another good way to think about it is that it's on your left hand, so less than is your left hand. That means that this next one has to be greater than because it is facing the opposite direction. The third one here is less than or equal to. That's what that line underneath it represents. That's telling us that it's equal to. And then the last one here is greater than or equal to. And that's because of the line underneath it as well. So let's use these symbols to compare numbers. I have -2 and 7. And based off my knowledge of numbers, I know that -2 is smaller. So I am going to put the less than symbol. -2 is less than 7. That's how that would read. If you notice, the opening to the inequality symbol is pointing towards the bigger number. Think about it as maybe a Pac-Man symbol, right? If I drew a circle, moved it over, right? Let's make it transparent, yellow, maybe a little bit thicker, right? Pac-Man, right? Pac-Man wants to eat the bigger number, right? So Pac-Man's going to eat the 7. Same thing over here. If I wanted to do 7 and -2 again, right? Pac-Man's going to have to eat the bigger number. So instead of it going to be less than, we're going to use the greater than symbol. Right? So Pac-Man's now facing the other direction. So if you notice, right, down here at the bottom, it says the sign flips depending on where the larger number is. So 7 was originally on the right, and then it flipped to the left, and both of our inequality symbols flipped. So let's write some inequalities based off a verbal expression, which we've practiced before. That was also in chapter 1, but we were doing algebraic expressions instead. So all real numbers x, that tells me we are dealing with a variable, and the variable is x. I'm using my less than or equal to symbol. So to figure out how to type that in, we can't use our keyboard, but we do have something in Google Slides that's very helpful. If you go to Insert and then go down to where it says Special Characters and click on that, it's going to load this pop-up screen. Now you could sit and scroll through each type of thing, or you could use the search. So I know it's a less than symbol, so I'm going to type in the word less. And if you notice the first one here, less than or equal to. Click it, X out, and there it is. We have our less than or equal to symbol. And then our number is -7. For number 2, I have a number k. So I know for a fact I'm starting with a variable, and then it says -6. So we are going to subtract 6, and then it's greater than 13. So the greater than symbol is on your keyboard. It is next to the letter M and N and your shift bar, just to give you guys kind of an idea of where it is. Okay, so looking here, right, now we want to figure out, is a number a solution to an inequality? So a solution to an inequality is any value that results in a true statement. when substituted for the variable. So we practice this with algebraic expressions, so we can do the same with inequalities. So we have the number -3, and we want to see if it will work inside of this inequality. So I am going to substitute in -3 where x is. So we're going to have 2 times -3 plus 1 is greater than -3. Now, if we do this math out, 2 times -3 is -6. Bring everything else down. Then we have -6 plus 1, which gives us -5, and then bring down the greater than or greater than -3. Now, looking at the two numbers, right, -5 is not bigger than -3, so this is false. And so we could put down below that -3 is not a solution to the inequality. Okay? So when you go to do a very similar question in your week 2 online learning slides, you're going to have to show me this work and tell me if it's true or false. Let's do one more. So we have the same inequality, but now we change the number. Let's see if changing the number changes our response. So again, I'm going to substitute -1 in for where x is. So 2 times -1 plus 1 is greater than -3. Now 2 times -1 gives us -2. Bring everything else down. -2 plus 1 gives us -1, and bring down the greater than -3. Now -1 is greater than -3, so this is true. And we can say that -1 is a solution to the inequality. Okay? You don't have to type the sentence on your slides, but at least let me know if it's true or false. So the next thing I want to look at with you guys is graphing inequalities. So there's some key things we have to remember. So if we are given a less than or a greater than symbol, we're going to use what's called an open circle. So this is just us drawing a circle not filled in and placing it on the value that we're given. Then we have what's called a closed circle. That's for the other types of inequalities that's equal to. So the filled circle tells us that the number is included in the solution set. And then we have some tips for shading. So if the variable's on the left-hand side, we're going to shade in the direction that the inequality is pointing. If the variable is on the right, we're going to shade in the opposite direction that the inequality is pointing. So we're going to practice, that way it makes a little bit more sense. So if we're looking here, we have x is greater than 1. Okay, oops, I did not want to change the color, I just wanted to highlight it. Okay, that's our inequality. So that means I'm going to start at 1, that's my starting place, and I have to put one of my circles down here. So this is greater than, it's not equal to, so I'm going to put my open circle on 1, and I'm just going to click and drag it to where the 1 is. So that's our starting place. The next piece is picking which arrow. So this counts as the shading. So if you notice, my inequality symbol is pointing to the right, right? That's where the tip is. The tip's pointing to the right. So I'm going to pick the arrow that has an arrow pointing to the right. So if I click and drag this, I can even make it a little bit smaller so it fits on my line. That is our solution. So if I picked any of these numbers, right, and plugged them in for x, it should work. So let's say I pick the number 5. If I plug in 5 in here, is 5 greater than 1? Yeah, it is, so it works. Say I picked 0. Is 0 greater than 1? No, it's not, and that's why we don't have the arrow facing that direction. Okay. Let's do another one. So I have a is less than or equal to -2. So because of the equal to part, we're going to use a closed circle. So I'm going to click and drag my closed circle. There we go. And again, the variable is on the left, so we're going to have our arrow going in the same exact direction as the inequality. This is pointing to the left, so I'm going to pick the arrow pointing to the left. Now this one's a little bit too long, so I'm going to take it and shorten it. And there you go. There's our answer, right? These are all of the values that are less than -2. So -3, -4, -5, -6, and it continues on. That's what the arrow's for. Then for the last one, okay, it says, what is the graph of 6 less than g? So we know we're going to start at 6. It's going to be an open circle. I'll click and drag that. But if you notice this time, we have the number on the left. So the variable's on the right. So we have to shade in the opposite direction. So notice that this arrow is pointing to the left. So I have to make sure that I pick the arrow pointing to the right. And then I'm just going to shorten it. There we go. That's our answer. Those are the numbers that are bigger than 6. Okay, last thing I want to work with you guys on is writing an inequality based off the graph. So doing the opposite of what we just practiced. So if we are looking at this example here, the first thing I want you to find is the number that we're starting with. And if you notice, the number we're starting here with is a 1. And then the second thing I want you to do is pick a variable. So for the sake of convenience, I'm going to use x. And then I know I'm going to have a 1. So what we need to do is figuring out what's going to go in between them, right? So if you notice, my arrow is pointing to my left. So that means I'm going to be looking at two different signs, either less than or equal to. And to figure out the difference between which one I need, I have to look at the circle. And if you notice, this circle is filled in. So that means I'm going to need my equal to less than. So I'm going to go back up into insert. Let me actually click so I can insert it. So insert, special characters. Type in the word less. So you click enter. That way it searches. Click on the symbol and there we go. So this is x is less than 1. Okay, it could have been any other variable. You could have done an A, B, C, D, whatever. But what's important is your arrow or your inequality is pointing to the left. It is underlined, right? You have the equal to, and the value is 1. Okay, let's do one more. Let's look at this one. So if you notice where you have an open circle at 5 and it's pointing to the right. So we're going to start with our variable. I'm going to stick with x. This is an open circle, so it will not be equal to, and I need to pick the inequality sign pointing to the right. So that would be my greater than symbol, and then the number that the dot is on is a 5. So this is x is greater than 5. Looking at this one, which for some reason we cannot see. Oh, there we go. There it is. So for this, again, same process. We're going to start with x. Notice I have a closed circle, so it's going to be equal to, and it's pointing to the right. So that's telling me this is a greater than symbol. So I'm going to go back up to insert, special characters, but this time instead of searching for less than, I'm going to search for greater. And there we go. There. Oops, no, that's my less than symbol still. Let's try it again. Let's type it in one more time. There we go. There it is. So we have our greater than symbol. I clicked on it. And then the number that it's on is 0. So we're going to have x is greater than or equal to 0. And that's our answer for that. One more, just for practice. We're going to start with x. And then notice it's an open circle, so not equal to, and pointing to the left. So this is less than, and then 2. Hey guys, that is it for our notes for this week. Please reach out to me if you have any questions. Just so you all know, you do have 3 assignments due this week. On Wednesday, your week 2 online learning slides are due. They follow along with this video, so make sure that you follow all the steps from this video to make sure you're doing them properly. If you have any questions, you can email me or even type the question in a private comment. I do get emails when you type those. On Friday, you have Khan Academy due, and you also have your Section 5.1 practice worksheet. If you have any questions, again, please reach out, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Bye, guys.